Okay, if anybody wants, to read my when I'm speaking annotations, so you just ask and they will agree here. Okay, so this is the recording for workshop 2, and it's week 2, and we are talking about this interest rate risk, and also we are talking about the market, the bank risk matrix. If I can you see my screen now? Can you see my screen? Yes, okay. Okay, then that is good. I cannot see my screen. Size. Okay, so this is the first of all, I want to talk about the announcements, and we have our first class test next week. And in this class week, we are going to test only week 1 and week 2. In a while, maybe today, or by tomorrow morning, you will find a full video explaining all the areas. So you will know exactly what you have to do. You will know, I repeat, exactly what you want to do for test 1. There are 20 questions, and they are divided between week 1 and week 2, the specialness and the interest bank risk matrix and the interest rate risk. Now, most of the questions will be actually allocated to week 2. And the video, which I call it explanatory video for week 1, for test 1, you will have all this information. So please wait for that one. I will also upload for you 2 tests, and I will try to explain them. You should be okay for the first class. Now, for the first test. Now, let me just say something. Last week, when you left, when everybody left, I think one of the students, Pei was here, and she was asking me, "Sir, I didn't really hear you about the final exam." Now, some development also happened during this, good development happened during this week for the final exam. And it is actually, so we cannot avoid the e-exam. But the thing that I also requested, and they asked me to confirm, is that you don't have to write, because you have to, you have to type everything. We have calculations, we have formulas. So write them all in one paper, like as you are doing a physical exam, and then take pictures and upload them. This already enabled in the system. That will make it easier. This is just for the final exam. As I told you, the final exam will be 2 hours and 10 minutes, and I will talk about it in details when we reach to that point. No need to worry about this now. We just need to worry about what we are doing. We don't have to worry actually about anything. I have a question here. Formula sheet will not be provided. Formula sheet will be provided at the end of the test. So when you open the test, you will have the formula sheet. It's impossible to memorize the formula sheet. You must have the formula sheet. Either I will ask them to give it to you as a physical one, but I will attach it to the exam. I will attach it to the test. So the last 2 pages will be the formula test. So that is about the formula. Any other questions? I don't think you have any more questions. If you have, you can, but we still have our room. Now, today, actually, I wanted to talk about this bank risk and interest rate risk. And the interest rate risk, this one is actually, we are covering today only the duration model. We are not covering the repricing model. I left the repricing model for the tutorial. Here, I want to focus on the duration model. Now, you have to upload. Please upload the. I just uploaded for you the answers, and when I want to explain some things so you understand what we are doing. This workshop took two parts, multiple choice questions, around 16 of them, divided among all those bank risks. And then we have the interest rate risk, the duration. I tried here actually to share with my other device so I can write for you. Just let me bring the other device. So I will just share here. This is our workshop. And let me now just explain here. It's just the same workshop because I'm using this one. So the interest rate risk, when we talk about the interest rate risk, the interest rate risk is only governing by two models, one called the repricing model. And the other one called the duration model. Now, the repricing model, because this interest rate risk is actually risk to earning, which means the balance sheet, and then plus risk to capital, which is the balance sheet. So one is to the income statement on the balance sheet. This guy only deal with the income statement, which is one of the big weaknesses. This one is a comprehensive one. So it deals with the net income, and the net income is actually encompassing, including, is it deals with the change in equity. So this is the change in net interest income, which is income statement issue. This is the change in equity, which is a balance sheet issue. Now, when it is like this, I am better in terms of this one will now cover the risk to earning and the risk to capital. Now, let's talk about the repricing model. The repricing model is very simple one. And it requires two issues. One, calculate what we call, you have to calculate the dollar gap. And this dollar gap is actually the risk-sensitive assets and risk-sensitive liabilities. Now, calculating the risk-sensitive asset and risk-sensitive liabilities, just to get these numbers, this one and this one is really, it needs some skills, but we give you the horizons as we show you in the tutorial. And from the horizons, you can get the risk-sensitive asset. Either you get the dollar gap or cumulated dollar gap, CGB or the gap itself. Now, after I get this, I have to calculate the net change in the net interest income. And the change in the net interest income actually is the dollar gap times the change in the interest rate, NI. And that's all for me. So as you can see, the only technical thing is only in this area. Now, as I mentioned, now I want to go to the duration, but before I go to the duration, I want to mention this something. If we have a loan, this is deposit of 100 million, and it is for 1 year. One year, and it is for 6%. This is financing a loan for 2 years for 7%. Now we have mismatching because we have, and this is where we can get the gap. The deposit is only for 1 year, and this one is for 2 years, the loan. So this year, the second year, I don't know what will be happens in the interest rate. It could go up, down, or less. So it can be 5%, or it can stay 6%. Or the problem is it can go to 7%, which is now, I put it in red because it's risk. Now it becomes, if you now come calculating the year one, just net interest income, which is interest income minus interest expense, you will find the interest income, which is 100 million times the 6%, times the 7%, which is for the loan, and 100 million times the 6%, which is what I paid. I find this to be 7 million. And then you get 6 million, you have 1 million. This is year one. Year two, the following can happen. if the interest rate goes to 5, I have no risk. If the interest rate goes to 6, no risk. But if the interest rate goes to 7, now this will be still, I get 7 million, which is actually the 1 million, the 100 million times the 7% coming from the loans, which is 7 million. But the interest I am paying is now 7% for the depositors. Because here in this point, because this is 1 year, in the second year, I have to give these people their money back, but their money is actually locked here for 2 years. So in this case, I have either to roll with them. There is a question. Sir, capital and equity is the same thing? Yes, right. Capital, and for the sake of this, capital and equity is the same, but capital in banking is encompassing more than one issue, not only the issued capital. I will come back to that, and we will talk about the capital in week 4 in details. But for the time being, equity is capital. Okay, so this will be 7 million. Just to come back here. As you can see, now my net interest income, which was here, 1 million, now it becomes 0. The difference between this and this, between the 1 million and the 0, is actually 1 million, and we call it, please now understand it from now, we call it refinancing risk. Now you can flip, and this is refinancing risk and reinvestment risk is the basics of the interest rate risk. And this is coming from the repricing model. You can make just the thing is different, and you can say, well, the deposit is actually for 2 years, and they are for 6% and 6%, and this is the deposit, and the loan now is only for 1 year, and I don't know what would happen in the second year. So if this is 7%, this in the second year, when I have, because these people will give me my money and I have to look for another borrower. Another borrower could take it for, it could go to 8%, which is a good thing for me, stay maybe 7%, but the problem is if they go to 6%. If you do the calculation now, you will find the first year, the same calculation, just the same calculation. You will find the first year interest income, 7 million, interest expense, 6 million, and I have 1 million here. Now, in the second year, this is year 1, year 2, the things could happen because now this interest income, if it comes to here, I have a problem. It becomes 6 million. And this is 6 million. Yes, I'm making 0 net interest income, but the difference between this and this is actually 1 million. This risk is coming from something called refinancing, reinvestment risk, reinvestment risk. Now, this is very important for me to understand this issue. Now, let me go just one more step. This model, the repricing model, has the following problems. The biggest problem is if I have a loan of 30,000, for example, and this 30,000 is year 1, we will be paid in 3 years. 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. And this is year 1, year 2, year 1, year 2, and year 3. So Actually, according to the repricing model, this one is actually is considered 3 years. When you get the risk-sensitive assets, or you look for the maturity gaps and risk-sensitive liabilities, this guy will be within the 3 years. Also, I received in the end of the first year 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, which is actually not correct. It makes this model easy and simple, but weak. Now, because of this, also the amounts coming, we are taking it as according, we just take it in simple value. We don't take market value, because this 10,000, when we receive it after 1 year, when we say it's 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, 3 years, it creates some problem. And the problem is 10,000 today, which I receive in the first year, is actually not 10,000, and 10 in the second year is not 10,000. I have to get the present value for all of those. End of year 1, end of year 2, which is this one plus if the interest rate is 10%. So this will be 1 year, and this will be over 10%. I'm just discounting to this power of 2, and this will be 1 plus 10% to the power of 3. This is market values, which actually will be reflected in my gaps. So this model, repricing model, does not take doesn't take to consideration the maturities, and then doesn't take to consideration the market value. This is the two big things. So they will come with another issue called the duration model. The duration model deals with the profit and deals with the change in the equity, and the change in the equity, which is the change of the shareholders' value or the net worth, which means it's encompassing everything. It takes into consideration the balance sheet. It takes into consideration also the income statement. So they come up with something called, they have to calculate the duration of the assets. And then we have to calculate the duration of the liabilities. And then we have, after that, to calculate the change in equity. And the change in equity is actually, it's a formula will be given to you in the exam, and it is given here. Duration of assets minus K, which is the leverage, duration of liabilities. Then I have to calculate this by the total assets. Then I have to, this is the formula for the duration, the change in equity and in I over 1 plus I. And then this, remember, now the duration, if the interest rate goes down, because the price, when we price our assets, it's the assets, say we have a bond, and the bond is 100 million, for example, or loans for 100 million. If you want to sell them today in the market, so in this case is if the interest rate goes up from 10 to 11%, then in this case, it was here 10%, for example, and this price goes, the 100 million, goes to 11%. Then B2 actually is less than B1 because this increasing. Now, what would happen if I have a positive duration gap, which means my assets is higher than my liabilities, taking to them the duration, and it increases, this increases, then in this case, the impact will be actually minus. See, in the repricing model, when I have assets more liabilities, more than liabilities, and the interest rate is going up, I'm happy. This one, because we are pricing according to the market, the impact on the equity will be minus. Now, having said that, let me just please upload the Excel file, okay? Because if I get this one, then I will be very, very happy with you today. Let me stop sharing here and come back to my main now let me go back to this Excel file, which I gave you. Guys, can you still see my screen? Is everything okay? Can you still see my screen? Yes, okay, okay. Look, this is very simple thing. Okay. Now, this is actually, if you look at it's an exam question which I have it last time for semester, just last semester. It's not the same. I just try to make it easy here. Look, if I have, this is the assets. Okay, this is the liabilities, which means the liabilities now is I have core deposits, I have local bank borrowing, I have certificate of deposits, and I have equity. The total asset is 100. And the total liabilities is actually 100. Now, you will have to calculate the duration of each assets, and I will show you how to calculate it, and the duration of each liability. So we get the duration of the assets. This is the assets. This is the liabilities. And this is the durations. This is in years. So this is 0.1 year, 0.5 years, 0.45 years for those ones. I did the same thing for the assets. I do the same thing for the assets. And then I get this one. And then I get the average duration of the assets and liabilities. See, this one for this, for example, this number is actually, you are dividing 30 over 100. As you can see in the formula, if you look at this number, it's actually 30 times over 100, which is the total assets, times the duration. And this is the average duration of this item. This item. So actually now I have the duration of all the assets and all the liabilities. This is the duration for all the assets, for the liabilities. And this is the duration for the assets. If I want to apply the formula, which I show you, this formula, which is the change in equity, first I have to calculate the duration of the assets, what we call the duration gap. So the duration gap is this minus this, and I find it to be, because I'm taking into considerations, the duration taking into consideration, it's not this minus this. I have to take the K, which means duration of assets minus duration of liability. Duration, this is the gap. The gap is just like this. The gap is actually duration of assets minus K, which is the leverage, duration of liabilities. So actually duration of asset is 38 minus 90. What is the gap? What is the what you call the leverage? The leverage, which is 100, 10 over or 90, which is these numbers over 100. So the liability is actually 90 over 100, the total assets. So I get this one, which is minus 13. Now then I use the formula and I calculate the change in equity. So the change in the interest rate is 1%. The interest rate market is 1%, 10%. So if I say, okay, I want this to be -1. As we said, I expect the impact on equity to be less. So I'm losing now 1.43. It's 1 minus 17. So you can continue playing with this. So as you can see now, how can I say, this is how we work with it. Now let me go. You will have to look at this later on. It's not part of the problem, but let me go now directly to the questions, and I want you to take the go to here, which is the part B, the duration model. So what is the duration model? Technically, duration is the weighted average time to maturity using the relative present values of cash flows as weights. Now, someone would say, what do you mean? These terms are really, hard for me to understand. I understand in this issue. So the duration measures the average life of assets of liability, as we show it in the Excel file. And I will show you how we do it for each item. So the duration differs from maturity as it's a measure of interest rate sensitivity, because duration takes into account the time of arrival and the rate of investment. And this is actually the formula will be given to you. And the formula, don't worry about it. I will tell you what is this and how to calculate it and this. Look, for example, just to train your mind for this. You see loan A and you see loan B. Loan A, the payment of loan A is like this, 500 in the first year, 500 second year, and then 50, 500, 3,000. This loan is 5 million, but the way they pay it, they pay 500,000, 500,000, 500,000, and this one. As you can see, this loan, which is the 5 million, 4,500,000 was paid in the first year, and then 100,000 for the next 4 years. As you can see, the duration of this is actually less than this one. Will the impact, because the bank will take this money and invest it for the next 4 years, but this will take them long time before the money comes back. They will have to wait. They will get only, this is 10% and then 10% and then 10% and 10%. And actually the 60% is coming here. But here is giving you 90% right away in the first year. You have time to invest it and all these things. Duration model take to consideration this issue. And they want to calculate the arrival of cash, as we say here. As we say here, the arrival of cash, the weighted average time to maturity, which means the maturities of the money coming. So it takes the average life of an asset or liability. So the average life of the asset and liability here is actually, as a loan, is shorter than this one. So if I take you again And I give you this example, which I showed you before. If we have year 1, year 2, year 3, and this is the loan. So the way to calculate the duration of this item, of this loan, is, so you, if it is according to the repricing model, I will take it as a loan of 30,000 for 3 years, and that's it. If I take it here, I will have to take the discount rate and get the present value. This is just the present value of 10,000 after 1 year, present value, and this is the present value of the 10,000 after 3 years. Then I have to calculate this by time. So this is actually the present value times the time. Present value times the time. If you want just to, just to know what is it, this here, it's actually the present value times the time. A time means what? Times means what? Means the years, which is here, the time here is year 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. So I have to calculate this, which is actually this times 1, this times 2, and this times 3. And you can see now the assumption, the present value times, this is the total of it. And this is just the present value. If you want to come back to this formula, now the numerator is the present value times the time. And this is the present value of all the payments. If I calculate it now, I will find it to be, so I divided this value by this value according to the formula, and I found it to be 1 year 937, which is less than 2 years. Now, as you can see now, when you are calculating the duration according to the pricing model, I am actually using this 3 years, but a duration model tell me no, both this under the 2 years. Actually, this is from 1 to 2 years. If you want to, we are taking gaps. This is from 1 to 2 years duration. But and the repricing model, the risk sensitive asset, it will be under the 3 years horizons. So this is how we calculate. Now we calculate all of this for all assets and liabilities. So if I come back now to the here, when I get the 2% here, for example, this one, the 7%, I'm really taking the lending to local banks and do this calculation, seeing what is the behavior of it, like what is coming in the first year, second year. I didn't give you the information there. I just gave you in the Excel file. I didn't give you the information. I just told you the duration is 2, which equals here the 1937. This is 0.2 years and this is 1937. Just an example. So what we do is actually we do this for each assets and each liability, and we find the duration of the total assets and the total liabilities. And when we get the duration for the assets and the duration for the liabilities, I can get the gap. And the gap is just like this. I will give you now another example. So look, for example, this is a bond. This is a bond, and this bond is, as you can see, it's 1,008%. It's 1,008%. So I will receive coupon in the first year of 80, and I will receive coupon in the second year, coupon in the third year, coupon in the fourth year, and this is for 6 years. So I will have to receive all those coupons during the first 5 years, and the 6th year I will receive the last coupon plus the principal. Now, if you are talking about repricing model, they will tell you this is a 6 years type of liability. But actually, if you take it here and you make the duration, You will have the 80, 80, 80, 80, and this one 80, and you have to discount them all. And then you have to add the present values, which is this one. And then you have to calculate the present value plus the time here, and then divide them, and you will find this to be 4.97 years, or almost 5 years, instead of 6 years. So this is how we do it. Now, if you get that one, this is the most important thing for me in this workshop: the duration model and the difference between the duration model and the repricing model. And so, coming back to the questions, this is the first question, which we actually defined the duration model, and we say, what does it mean? It takes into consideration the average life of assets and liabilities. And then this is just an explanation. This is another question, which is consider a security with annual cash flow of 10,000, and they want us to calculate the duration of it, and we already calculated because we divided according to 3 years. We discounted according to discount rate, and then we get the duration of 1937. If you go to this question, this is the core question here. Now, this is a full question because this question will ask me to calculate the duration of the assets and the duration of the liabilities and to get the change in equity. Look at this. So this is actually financial institution XY has assets of 1 million. That's okay. Invested in 30-year 10%. Treasury. Common treasury, the board selling at bar, which means I am talking about the 10%. This is the discount rate. I will use the 10%. If it is selling at bar, which means the coupon rate is equal to the interest rate in the market or the discount rate. The duration of this bond has been estimated. So they say to us, and they told us the duration of this bond is 994, the assets. The assets are financed with equity and 900,000 2-year 7.15 semi-annual coupon capital note. So the bank issued a capital note to finance these assets. Now, I don't have to worry about the assets because they will already give me the assets. Now, so what I do now is actually calculating the duration of this liability. And it is semi-annual, which means I will have the first 6 months, then second period, which will be after 1 year. The third payment will be after 1.5 years, and the third payment will be after 2 years. And I know this is 32,625. This is how I'm going to, this is the cash flow of the note, which means how much I have to pay. For the first year, I will have to pay 900,000, which is the total bill. The asset is financed by 1 million, but 100,000 of it from equities. So I have to calculate how much interest I will pay, which will be a cash outflow. And I found this. For the next 6 months, I'll find this. And the third 6 months, same thing. So all of this payments will happen in time with those amounts, but I need to get their discounts. So I will get the present value for the first payment. So the red sign here is how I calculate it. This is to power 1, power 2, power 3, power 4. Now it's 6 months, so I divide it here by 2, by 2, by 2, okay? And this is why I'm using the power to 1. And 2 and 3 and 4, because I already taken consideration of the 6 months. So this is the present value, the black color. Then I want to get the present value times the time. I just multiply this by 1, multiply this by 2, multiply this by 3, and multiply this by 4. And I found it to be this amount or total of this 1770. And this one also the present value. Now, all I need now to get I know now the note duration is 197 years, and the duration of the asset 994. Now I can calculate the leverage adjusted duration, which is duration of the assets minus duration of the liabilities. I find it to be 8.2325. So this is one formula. You can use this one. You can just put the change in equity, duration of asset minus duration K, duration of liabilities, times the assets, times the change in interest rate. Or you can take it in two stages. Calculate first the duration gap. This is the duration gap, which is 8.2325, and it's a positive. Now, if I continue with the question, if I know the interest rate has changed by 20 basis points. So in this case, this amount, which is this one, already calculated to you to be like this, minus 20. So I will have the duration of the assets. This is the change in equity. Duration of asset minus duration of liabilities times the assets times the duration of the change in R over 1 plus R. So I know the duration of the asset 994. I know the duration of the liabilities 1.975. I calculated. The leverage is 9 over 10. Why 9 over 10? Because this asset was financed by 900 liability, and the capital is 10%. You just take the capital out of it. So the leverage, which means liabilities over assets, it's 9 over 10. So now you multiply by the total assets, and you multiply by this one, which is the change in I over 1 plus I, and you find this 116,464. So because of the decrease in the interest rates, and because I have what we call a positive duration model, which means my assets is higher than my liabilities, any decrease in the interest rate will actually increase the market value of my assets and increase the market value of my liabilities. But fortunately, in this case, the market value of my assets are higher than my liabilities in terms of duration. So the impacts of the increase of the assets over the increase of the liabilities, which I have to pay, it makes me a difference of 16,464. This is a good news. So this is actually different from the repricing model. Because of the interest rate decrease, my equity has increased by 16,464. Now, if you get this one, I think this is the most important thing for me. Any questions? Okay, please log into Pool Everywhere. Hi, sir, sorry to disturb. I can't seem to find the workshop PowerPoint in module. May I know where I can find it? It is in module. Guys, did everybody get it? Did you get the workshop in module? Nobody's answering me. Did you get the you can see here, I think I uploaded. You go to week 2. Because all of you now engaged. It's here, uploaded student and calculations. It's here. Can you see it? It's in week 2. It is week 2. It is week 2. It is under week 2. So you get it, guys, huh? Okay. Yeah, okay, share and find it. I will see what I can. I will see what I can do with you for the multiple choice questions. I have only the answers are there. Can you play for 4 minutes or whatever? Can we play? Can you engage in this one? All everywhere? Everybody participates? Actually, the things that I want to cover, actually, yeah, I'm happy with it. So 83% get it. So when we have 100 million invested in corporate bonds, we are exposed actually to the credit risk, which means the bond issuer may not pay us. And also, if there is a change in the interest rate in the market, the value of this bond may go, if the interest rate increasing, the market value will drop. And this is why credit and interest rate risk. Liquidity and technology risk, it's not right. Solvency risk is not right. This is what we just talked about. Example of refinancing risk, which we just talked about it. The maturities of the assets is higher than the maturities of the assets is higher than the maturities of the liabilities, actually. Which means, as you can see, when you finance 2-year maturity asset with 1-year maturity liability, when this maturity of the assets finish, with the end of the year, the liability people want their money, but their money is locked up with the assets. So in this case, you have to find somebody to finance you. If the interest rate goes up, you have a problem. This is why we say it's a refinancing risk. This is almost the same. This has been always an exam question. I think so the income and bank finance 1 million, 1 year by 2 years fixed rate deposits. If the market interest rate dropped by 1%, means what would happen? I will reinvest this into you. So I know it's reinvestment risk, and I know it will decrease in the second year by 1 million because of the refinancing risk. So the net interest income will decrease in the second year by 1 million because of the reinvestment risk. See, you didn't get it. This is actually a problem. I will have to stop here, and I want you to look at those questions and see if you have any question. Let me know. Most important for me today, I covered the repricing model, and the duration model. I will have to stop here now to respect time. If you have any questions, you can stay. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day. Please look at the questions. The answer is there. Everything is there. And thank you very much. If you have anything, I am just here.